Telemarketing Made Easy, the Sales Techniques Made Easy Guide to Telemarketing Success. Although much feared, the telephone is actually the most efficient way possible to speak with large numbers of people. And the most important appointment you ever have is with yourself to actually get on with it and dial for business. And remember, allow nothing to interrupt you. Control your telephone setting. It's really important to have an organized physical layout and setting with all the tools to hand, so you're not reaching around for anything at the last minute. And being prepared to begin at the prescribed time allows you to maximize the value of your appointment with yourself to make these calls. Do not delude yourself by squandering this appointment. Let's go through a few of the elements that affect the odds. Firstly, not knowing the name, the position or the responsibilities of the person that you're trying to get through. Sometimes it's well worth actually making a pre-phone call to find out that information. Let's take a look at some of the elements that affect the odds. Firstly, not knowing the name, the position or the actual responsibilities of the person you're trying to get through to. That's a definite no-no. It's well worth the effort to make a pre-phone call sometimes to find out that information before you try to get through to talk to the decision makers. Now when you actually get through to the decision maker, then we should be asking them questions like, are you responsible for the product or service that we're going to eventually try to sell them? Do you ever have a need for your product or service? Do you have a preferred supplier? Are you happy with your present supplier? And is anybody else involved in the buying process that we need to speak to? But do avoid too many probing questions too early. We're just trying to set the scene to make sure that the telemarketing approach is going to be the right one and we're talking to the right person. And then lastly, if you seem to be fishing around at this point and you really haven't got much knowledge about the company or the person you're trying to speak to, that doesn't go down well at all. Other elements that affect the odds are really down to pace and how pacey the phone call is and how relaxed you are, and if you're coming over a professional. So if we think about how many words the actual average person talks in a minute and how many words does the average person think in a minute, it's quite surprising that we normally talk about 100 words per minute and we think about 800 words per minute. But when we're really stressed or we're bored or we're familiar with somebody, we can actually talk at about 130 words per minute and we can think at 1200 words per minute. So quite a big difference there, something to think about. So I think the thing that most people fear when they're actually making a call is the first part of the call, which can be very, very cold, and we've got to try and establish a rapport with our prospects straight away as soon as we can. But generally, if we look at how a normal sales call goes, then you can see that the rapport has dropped away there. So that's not what we really want. We really want to be building the rapport up. Now, a poor sales call, if it goes wrong very quickly, can actually plummet down the scale, as you can see there. But a good sales call can actually start off quite difficult sometimes. It can be quite awkward. The person doesn't really want to take your call. They feel you might have barged your way in. But if you can sort of get chatting and get to know the person and start to make sense to them by building up a rapport, then a good sales call will end with the rapport going right up the scale. So when you come to finally meet your prospect during the appointment, you've already established a rapport. So that's really, really important there. So just to conclude this section about elements that affect the odds, we really need to learn to sound more human. We don't want to be talking too fast and as I call it, rabbiting on. We just need to sound more human, more professional, and try and avoid speeding up. Keep the conversation nice and calm at your normal pace. So important to gain rapport with your prospects all the way through my courses. That's so important. Most of my prospects end up as good friends, and this is the very start of it, gaining rapport during the first telephone call. And a good idea is actually to tape your calls and listen to them back afterwards, and then just go through it and see which parts you felt went really well, which parts you felt didn't go so well, and that can be a good reference for the future and help you hone in your telemarketing technique. Let's take a look at some of the information you need before actually talking to a decision maker. Now, must have information. You've got to have the person's name and you must find that out. It's always worth a pre-phone call, as I mentioned earlier, to find out the name of the actual decision maker. Find out what their position is and what their responsibilities are. And also find out who their assistant or their secretary is. Well, we'll cover this a little later on, but they can become your best salesman for you, a real champion for you within the company. Then like to have information. It'd be really nice to know who their present supplier is, how often they buy, are they a big client, are they going to be regular? Let's try and get a bit of background information. Do we know about any problems that they've got with their present supplier? If we've found out their present supplier and we know who they are, do we know what the present supplier's reputation is? So a little bit of ammunition there for later on. And decision makers, their likes and their dislikes. What are they concerning? What sort of things don't they like? So if we can find out all this beforehand, brilliant. Do we know their email address so it's easy to follow up on the telemarketing call? And have we got their direct phone number? We'd love to have this information. So where can we actually find this information from? Well, we can obviously ring up reception. We can talk to his assistant or PA or secretary. Again, I've found it very, very useful to try and get these guys on your side, and they become a champion for you and say, one of the things I might say to somebody is, look, I really don't want to waste Mr. X's time, could you tell me, is this the case? Does he look for this? Do you look for that? And it's really interesting then that the PA or the secretary could be really, really helpful, and because that's her job, is to save her boss's time. So they really do appreciate that. Do we know another department within the company? Do they know anything about the decision makers in the department you're approaching? Can we look on the internet? Obviously their website. We can put that in Google and find out as much as we possibly can about the right people to talk to. Have we got hold of a copy of their brochure? Have we sent for it before we start making the phone calls? A little bit of research at this point, it's absolutely valuable, and there's lots of other ways we can find out about companies in the newspapers, following them. I've often found a telemarketing call to a company who's in the news can be really powerful. You ring up and say, hey guys, I saw you in the news last night, brilliant, you've got this new contract and it made me think X, Y and Z, and you're off. And they love it because everybody really values PR, and somebody to react to that PR is great. They love taking phone calls. I love taking phone calls like that. It's happened to me a few times, and it's really, really important, that one. So do try and find out as much information as we can about the actual decision maker before making that phone call. We touched on receptionists earlier, and as you've probably found in the past, some can be really helpful and some can be really unhelpful. So we've got to get past that. One of the ways I've found and works really well for me is to actually ask for help. If you start demanding to be put through and you need to be put through and you've got to speak to somebody, it really doesn't go down very well with a receptionist. But if you ask for their help, 9 times out of 10 you actually end up with a champion for your products. But if the receptionist really isn't helpful, then ask to be put through to somebody who can help, and that might be the PA or secretary or an assistant. So you can bypass the receptionist on that one, and explain that all you want to do is just send some information to the right person. So you're just trying to establish the right person, so you're not going to waste anybody's time. So when you're calling back to the decision maker, we know his name now. Try putting your name first. So I would keep it relaxed, keep it nice and friendly, and just say, oh hi, it's Roy for Tim. Is there any chance I could have a quick chat with him, please? And the receptionist then is going to think that you already know each other and you're well known, and just try to keep it casual. Don't be at all demanding at that stage, and again, 9 times out of 10 you'll be put straight through. When we're dealing with the secretary or assistant or a real influencer, treat them with the same respect as the decision maker. They really are going to be your champions at the end of the day. If you want to get through to somebody who's really difficult to get through to, your influencers are valuable to you. So treat them with respect, and if you win their respect, you're going to win the decision maker every time. And as I said earlier, ask for help. Everybody likes helping everybody, Nobody likes to be sold to, and this is what this is all about. It's just asking for help. What are the rules? How does the decision maker like to be contacted? Does he prefer to be written to? Does he prefer email, fax, whatever, or the phone call? It's really important to find out how the decision maker likes to play the game. And you must avoid being patronising. I mean, that goes without saying, really. So don't patronise anybody. Just be honest and straightforward, and you'll get through. Give them the full details of yourself, your company, and the reason that you're ringing. It's really important because they've got to make a decision for you. And to be honest, it actually saves you a bit of time if they turn around and say, well, actually, no, we've just awarded the contract to X, Y, and Z, then you can say, well, thank you very much. Could you tell me when the tender comes up again? And you can really turn it into a positive. But just give them all the details and be really, really honest. Now there are 8 parts to a telemarketing call. Part 1 is the introduction, where you introduce yourself and your company. And try not to sound scripted at this point. We are going to run to a kind of a script, but it's important to the way you put it over that it doesn't sound scripted. And we must be very, very clear right at the beginning the purpose of the call, and it must have a benefit for them. So it's really, really important that you make them understand right at the very beginning that I saw some information and I really thought we should work together. We've got a product that I really think could be of great help to you. They really need to know what the purpose of the call is to get them interested. And as I said earlier, a useful fact about your prospect. If you've just seen them in the paper, or you've just read a press release on their website, or something about their industry that can intrigue them, very, very useful, very powerful, that one. The objection, yes, early on it is easy to get an objection, and the prospect turns around and says, yeah, well, that's okay, we're not really interested, or we haven't got time, or this and the other. So you've got to empathise with that, and you've got to understand, and obviously listen, acknowledge, and agree with them. But do examine what they're really saying, and try to work around that and try to overcome that objection. And your response to the objection is really you explaining what you would do and why you would do it, and again, think about benefits there. And there might be other issues, other problems if the decision maker is just going into a meeting or something like that. Well, you've got to listen and acknowledge that. Often you can build up obligation by accepting something at the time, saying, okay, fine, I understand, I'm sorry to have bothered you at a bad time. What would you like me to do? When would be best for me to ring back? And the next time you ring back, then your prospect then feels much more obliged to speak to you because you've been so understanding in the first place. So that can definitely work to your advantage. And then your solutions. If you've done your research, you must have your solutions ready and repeat what you would do and why you would do it. And then closing. I mean, we must ask for the business, as in all things. You've got to ask for the business. Now, at this point, you might just be ringing to make an appointment, so the business is getting that appointment. Make sure you ask for that at the end. Don't just let the call fizzle away. Say, well, thanks for all that, and the reason I rang was I really do think it'd be great if we could get together and have a chat, or whatever the next stage of your approach is. So we must remember that to close the call at the end of the day and ask for the business or ask for the meeting, whatever it is you want. If you do anything else, you make sure you do that one. Let's take a look at the actual decision maker then. So we've now got through to him. This is your chance now to impress. So we're going to introduce knowledge about them and about their company. Nothing more flattering than somebody saying, I've heard you're the top guy in town, or your company's the best in the world, and I really did need to talk to you because you're the people I want to do. Often, actually, as a little aside, I often explain that I'm doing some research in their area, and that they're the main players. I'd really like to gain some more information from them, but introduce knowledge about them and what they do. It's really powerful. And then, what's the purpose of your phone call, and what's the benefit to them taking the phone call? And you do need to demonstrate here that you've done your homework, and that really will then differentiate you from other salespeople who really just pick up the phone and ring anybody. And it's worth, at the end of the day, the sale will be made on the basis of the fact that they trust you and your company and that you can deliver. So, if you've done your homework about them, at least you've proved that you feel your product or service is right for for their company. So that's good, and it's really good for your confidence that you've started to build up this rapport that you've got to do early on in the phone call. And hopefully the reaction you'll get, it should impress them that at least you're not just trying to sell them something on any basis. You understand their needs, you understand that your products can match some of those needs, and off you go. But the next thing you should expect an objection here, and that nearly always comes. There's always a reason to fend you off at that point. We've just awarded a contract, we're not buying at the moment. You've really got to just get through that and work through that objection. We'll talk about that a little bit in a couple of seconds, but do expect that one. So how do we deal with this first objection? Well, like anything, we've got to listen. You've got to acknowledge that it's a genuine objection, and we've got to agree that that could be a problem. So we really need to examine and understand what the objection's all about, and then offer solutions or solution. And they've got to be really considered and genuine. Listen to the reaction then. So if that's a great reaction, you say, well, actually, yeah, you are right. Yes, I will see you. Or, well, actually, still not impressing me. Then you've got to offer an alternative solution. So, keep that in mind, that you're going to get these objections and you've got to deal with them. And then expect other objections. They're going to come along, and again, you've got to listen, acknowledge, and agree, and then examine and understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. Some call decision makers can actually start negotiating very early on in the phone call. So they can say, oh yeah, I know your product, your company is very expensive, or it's going to cost me a fortune. They're actually, to me, they're showing interest. They're just trying to negotiate. So don't worry too much about the early objections. Just work through them. Don't forget to ask for the business, for the meeting, or what other outcome you want to achieve. So crucial, ask for the business. To use a script or not to use a script? That is the question. It's the biggest question I ever get asked, actually. And people say, oh, I hate it when somebody rings me up and they're obviously reading from a script. Well, that's the problem. They are reading from a script. But it's really important to actually have a script. And if you think of the script as your method and what you're going to work through, rather than the exact words you're going to say, then it can actually work for you. You should start off, first thing, you should really know clearly, why you're dialing, why you're phoning up. And just absolutely, I'm dialing up to make an appointment to see this prospect. And never allow yourself to be sidetracked from your purpose. Crucial. And always have your script to hand. It helps you to stay on track. And then the more you use it, the more the script will take on your own personality. And like anything, becoming more proficient is a natural byproduct of practice. So if you've got the same script, you can tweak it after every phone call you make if you like. But bring out your own personality, your own words, what you feel comfortable saying, and before you know it, you'll be absolutely flying. So my conclusion is that scripts really do work, and it is a fact that everybody dislikes scripts, but everybody uses scripts, even those who say they don't. And the best script, of course, is the one that works. So use those given, learn them, and practice them. And soon the discomfort will go and you'll feel focused and everything will be really clear. So it's really worth practicing your scripts. Here's a couple of ideas for you. A short script could be, oh, hi Mr. Smith, my name's Roy Griffiths and I'm with XYZ Company. First, thanks for taking my call, and I really promise not to take much of your time. The reason I'm calling is I'd like to stop by and tell you how we are able to, and then it should be a very short description of the benefits that will solve a problem from your research that you know they have. So I'm going to solve this problem for you, and actually I'm going to be in your area next Wednesday. Could I see you for a few minutes at about 2, or would 4 be better for you? Or another idea could be, hello Mr. Smith, my name's Roy Griffiths from XYZ. The reason I'm calling is not to take up a lot of your time on the phone, but rather to find out if I can meet with you for a few minutes to share an idea with you that has been very helpful to other businesses in the area. And you could actually put in there a specific benefit to them or their company. So could I see you for a few minutes next Wednesday, about 2, or would 4 o'clock be better for you? But most of all, you've got to be yourself. And you can choose how you see yourself. So see yourself as incredibly proficient and professional. You only get to make a first impression once, so be upbeat and positive. It's the first few seconds that count, so always be friendly and sincere. And don't forget to be familiar with gatekeepers and expect to get past. The way you talk, your language, your conversation, expect to get past. Your voice is the carrier of your greatest tool, which is your positive attitude. So why not let it shine through above everything else? And only concentrate on things you can control. Things beyond your control will have a zero effect. And the point really is, don't get into long conversations or try to sell on the phone. All you're trying to do, remember, is to get a meeting with the decision maker. Brevity, simplicity, and directness or purpose is the strength of these little scripts. Try them and keep records. What went well, what didn't go so well. Right, we're getting near to my favourite bit now about telemarketing, because I have coached a lot of people in my life about how to do and how to run a telemarketing campaign, and I've seen the pain that they go through. And to take away the pain, this is how we're going to do it. And the first thing we've got to start doing is to keep records of every dial you make. So every time you dial a contact, whether you get through or not, you make that record. And then the records allow you to know your own numbers, what's happening and what's the value of each dial. So what are the conversion rates? So you must use dials made and not contacts made. And that way you will always be successful. Numbers will always work to your advantage, because you can analyze them, and you'll see in a minute we'll demonstrate to you how you can make those numbers really work to your advantage. And then your personal application of the law of numbers will provide you with your own evidence. Now there's lots of ways nowadays to keep records, manually with your diary or through the card systems. I used to be a great lover of that until the computer came along, and obviously now computerized databases, spreadsheets. ACT is a very good customer relationship management database. Salesforce. There's lots of other computerized databases. Some, to be honest, for me, take a long time to fill in and whatever. But Excel spreadsheets can work just as well. So really good. But you must, whatever you do, use a call log. So every time you do a dial, you put what happened, even if it was no contact, whatever. Keep a call log. Now this section is going to really convince you that telemarketing is easy and you really can earn every time you dial. We're going to look at an example of a consultant who earns an average of $3,000 per client. His target is to get 3 clients and he's going to earn $9,000. Now to get those 3 sales, he knows that his conversion rate means he's got to have 10 appointments to get those 3 sales. So each appointment he goes to is going to be worth $900. To get those 10 appointments, he needs to speak to 100 decision makers. So again, every decision maker he speaks to, he earns $90. To speak to 100 decision makers, he has to do 250 dials. So that equates to $36 for every dial he makes. So if it takes 1 to 2 hours to make 20 calls, then you're going to be earning between $360 to $720 per hour. Well, I'm sure we'd all be pleased with that. So that's the conversion rates. That's how it works, and that's what makes telemarketing work. And if you use your own conversion figures there, you'll see how many dials you have to make to earn money. And it's a great feeling then when you put the phone down and you think, fantastic, this guy's thinking, I've just earned $36. Happy days. So we're really happy that for every phone call we're going to earn some money, but you really do need to accept that you are going to get no's. There's no question about that. You're going to get more no's than yeses, as you can see from the conversion rates. 250 dials to 100 decision makers that you're going to talk to. That's quite a lot of dials, but you've got to get yourself into the frame of mind that that is going to happen. But at the end of the day, people are your inventory. You need an abundance of prospects, and that allows you to embrace telephoning and eliminate self-defeating, unrealistic pressure. So you've got to prospect constantly and look for new prospects through all the various ways we can do that. And many people you speak to will not do business with you. You are sorting through the prospects to find those who will. So you must get the no's to get the yeses. And I think that's probably rejection is one of the things we all fear the most. We hate rejection. You've got to get used to it. You've got to get used to it if you're going to get the yeses. They will come. And if you're not getting what you want, simply move on. I mean, I have a rule that if I try to get through to a decision maker more for 3 times and I can't get through to him, then move on to the next time. It's you're wasting your time. Just move on. And you should know exactly what to expect when you're using the telephone. Nothing should surprise you, and nothing you hear can actually hurt you. So it's only somebody can say, no, I'm not interested. But if you build up the rapport like we talked about earlier, a lot of that will go away anyway. So it's over to you now. Before you make your next call, make sure you have all the relevant information and you've done some great research about your decision maker and their company. Write yourself your first script covering the 8 parts to a call and practice it, and then get feedback from people you trust. And as we've said, you must start keeping detailed records of the number of dials you make, the number of decision makers that you speak to, and the appointments that you've actually made. And then work out your stats. What are your conversion rates? And that will tell you then how much you're going to earn per dial, which really does make telemarketing a lot easier to handle. So good luck from Roy Griffiths of SaleTechniquesMadeEasy.com.